p.m. and I have officially landed in London. Just a fair warning, I'm going to be pretty low energy today. I'm tired AF. Just had a full day of filming straight off the plane. No sleep, no breaks, no warm up, straight into filming. So, um, yeah, my voice is a little bit sore right now, but I think that's just because I've been talking all day. Got some water here, should be good to go tomorrow. But yeah, just warning, I'll be pretty low energy today, but wanted to give you guys content nonetheless. So firstly, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ephraim, I'm 25 years old. About 2.5 years ago now, my dating life sucked. I hated the reality I was living in, and it's because I was able to sort out most other areas of my life, but when it came to attracting women that I wanted in my life, I just didn't know how to do it. Nowadays, that's not the case because I paid an expert to teach me exactly what he knew. Learned how to walk over to girls. We call it cold approach in the daytime. And yeah, nowadays I simply install my quiet confidence playbook that I've created over the last 2.5 years with this channel. I install it into my clients' reality, the clients that I work with one on one, and I allow them to change their dating reality without having to change who they are, without having to change their personality. And I mainly work with busy introverted professionals, so that's how I see myself. I see myself as a busy, introverted professional. And all our lives we've been lied to, guys telling us you have to be extroverted to attract girls, and I disagree. I'm living, breathing proof that that's not the case. Yeah, I still am soft spoken if you ask people that know me personally. So, anyways, so what I'm going to be talking about today is my first day in London, and more specifically, my first day approaching in London. It was a new experience, new country, new city, new territory, new climate, new environment, new culture, new everything. And so I just threw myself into the deep end. So I'll just narrate the day, talk about things that I learned, compare it to other cities I've been to and approached in, and then talk about some of the self-limiting beliefs that guys tend to throw out there about this city that I didn't experience, at least not on the first day. So first things first, I landed here about 10 a.m. So I left San Francisco at 4 p.m. on September 1st, landed in London at 10 a.m. September 2nd, and took a train straight to the city center, central London, to meet up with the cameraman Daniel, who's been doing the professional filming for me. He'll be doing it for the next 30 days for me. And first impressions were people just seem pretty friendly. I've got guys that I'm friends with that say, they're on the train, they're on the tram when they're going through London and everybody looks depressed and sad and this and that. Maybe it, maybe it was just because it's a Tuesday, I don't know, but I mean, it seemed like a very standard train ride to me. If anything, people seemed a little more chipper and talkative on the train rides out here than they do in San Francisco. We have a train system ourselves, and I very, very rarely see people engaging, but when I was on this ride, yeah, people were talking and chatting to each other, and not anything too crazy, but just casual conversation. I wasn't partaking. I was just two AirPods in, looking around, taking everything in. Once again, right, for guys that wonder, do you need to be extroverted to have the skill set? Whenever I'm in public and I don't plan on approaching or filming content, I'm usually just two AirPods in, listening to music, listening to a video, listening to podcasts, not interacting with people, right? So no, you don't have to be extroverted. But anyways, yeah, the first impressions were people were pretty chipper, is how I would describe it. People were pretty friendly and nice. So got into central London. It was pissing rain, unfortunately, when I got here. And so I asked a couple people, I asked two people where the nearest cafe was. First girl I asked didn't know. So then I walked up to a guy that was like 5 feet away from her and he knew. So he pointed me to a cafe that was right down the road. I ended up in this area called Covent Garden. It looked pretty nice, cobblestone roads, just very, I guess, UK-esque architecture that I'm still getting used to. And so walked over to the cafe. That's where I met Daniel, and there we started discussing what the filming was going to look like. And so, as you can imagine, the nerves started kicking in for me as well because, to a beginner learning the skill set in an immersion, this is about as close as I can get to that, right? Is when I have a professional grade big camera pointed at me while I'm going in and I've got nobody by my side. This is about as close as I can get to feeling like a beginner as possible because I've done so many reps at this point. I'm pretty numb to it. And I was pretty nervous, but I watched some of the footage back just a few minutes ago, and I'm like, wow, you could barely tell that I was nervous, right? Because I'm so good at portraying. I'm so good at staying calm under pressure, at least in this context now, because I've practiced it so much that I could barely tell that I was nervous, but I definitely was. And so, yeah, let's just talk about how it went. So, firstly, to eliminate every possible excuse that guys have. So the way that I ran this session, and I plan on titling the video something along the lines of I approached women in London fresh off the plane. And when I say fresh off the plane, I had my backpack on that had all of my tech equipment in it, all my audio equipment for my immersions, all my GoPro equipment, and my laptop and stuff. So a big bulky backpack. And then on top of that, I had my suitcase. So I had my full suitcase of clothes with me on these clunking on these cobblestone roads as I was approaching. And so the first thing I did, right, Daniel and I sat and got acquainted for about 30 minutes, and then I said, all right, let's get started. And so, yeah, he started rolling. He mic'd me up. We did our intro in the middle of Covent Garden while people were passing by and looking at me, just how I like it. Yeah, center of attention, just to get over my fear of being the center of attention. It's great. And then after the intro, we began the session. So just to highlight what I remember about the session, you boys will be able to see this pretty soon when I put the video together and post it. But first conversation was rock solid. Very first approach lasted about, I want to say, 2 to 3 minutes. Fun, very receptive to my compliment, very receptive to talking to me. And then we got to talking about how I was from the States. This is about a minute and a half, 2 minutes in, and she goes, "Oh, I've been to the United States, but not San Francisco, where you're from." And I go, "Oh, I guess you'll have to visit me then." And then she said, "I don't know if my boyfriend would like that." Yeah, so that's how we ended that conversation. Still left her way better than I found her. You'll see how much I made her day during that approach. And then I remember a few back to back blowouts. I say blowouts, but if you watch this back, you'll notice that I got all of these girls to stop. A couple of them were on the phone, and still got them to stop. Still brightened up their day. They gave me a big bright smile when I dropped off the compliment. A couple of them were pointing at their phone, saying, "I'm on the phone. I gotta go." A couple girls said that they were late to somewhere. So you'll get to see all this, right? All of this stuff in a couple of weeks, or maybe a week's time, whenever I decide to piece together the video. But point is, what am I demonstrating here, right? Is firstly, guys, a lot of guys stress about warming up, right? This concept of warming up. Oh, I need to go indirect first. And I need to ask for a couple girls for directions. And I gotta work my way up and go talk to the kiosk girl. And I'm not against it, right? But I've just noticed that some people talk about it as though like that should be default. And the way I look at it, it's like, had my suitcase in hand, had my backpack on, hadn't done an approach in about 2 weeks. Yeah, before today, I hadn't approached in about 2 weeks. Last time I did an approach was a demonstration approach for my client Sam, who we ran the immersion in LA about 2 weeks ago. That was the last time I approached. And then before that, it was Serbia, right, which is about a month ago now, or three weeks ago. And so, having taken about 2 weeks off from approaching anybody, and then I rock up to a new country, new city, like I mentioned, never been here before, new accents, right? I've got my luggage with me because check-in time for my Airbnb wasn't until 3 p.m. And I arrived at about 12 p.m. to Covent Garden. And I just decided, yeah, I guess I could, in theory, go and do some warm-up approaches, or I could just jump in the deep end, just like I love doing. I could just jump in the deep end, full balls, full throttle, fuck it. And that's exactly what I did, right? And so, yeah, that's the first thing I like demonstrating is that, yeah, I mean, I guess you could warm up in theory if that makes you more comfortable, but I don't really see the point. I see it more or less as wasted energy. It's like I'll just warm up with doing my first approach. That is my warm up. There we go, right? And then the next thing this proves is that the first approach doesn't always have to go poorly, right? Because this one went really well, and then the ones after that went actually not as good as the first. But then also that the main points of the video, which I hammered at, was circumstances don't matter nearly as much as you think. Oftentimes we make them matter. Circumstances don't matter until we assign value to those circumstances. We assign importance is the right word. Circumstances are not nearly as important as we think they are until we assign the importance to those circumstances. So guys, give everybody around me, give my friends, they give us every excuse in the book as to why they cannot approach. oh, I don't feel good, oh, I'm not ready, oh, I haven't gotten my hair cut, oh, I don't have the cutest outfit on right now, this and this and that. And, you know, I'm not going to shave my head bald and get fat on purpose just to prove that I can still make things happen in that state. Who knows if I can or can't, but I'm not going to do that. So the closest thing I can do to stacking the odds against myself is to throw myself into approach when I've just landed in a new country for the first time, when I've just gotten off the plane, when I've got my luggage still in my hand and I've not even checked into my Airbnb, when I've not even brushed my teeth for the last 20 hours, when I've not slept for the last 20 hours, yeah, when I ate a fistful of gummy bears on the plane and I'm feeling like shit, and when I'm nervous and I'm out of my depth and I haven't warmed up and I haven't approached in a week, it's like I was purposely stacking all of these what guys would consider obstacles in front of me just so I could prove to the guys that end up watching that video that none of those obstacles are real. None of them are obstacles until I make them obstacles, until I decide with my brain, all right, I'm going to assign importance to these quote obstacles. In reality, I was able to make things happen, and you'll see there were quite a few really, really, really good conversations that came out of today. Remember, jet lagged, haven't slept in 20 hours, throat's feeling a bit sore, hopped off the plane, right? So it's like, yeah, anyways, I don't want to harp on that for too long. So continuing on, I just wanted to compare how I found approaching in London. Now, to be fair, I've only gotten one day, so I don't want to summarize it too much because this could have been one day, tomorrow might go completely different, but I must have done somewhere between 20 to 30 approaches today, and so maybe more like 15 to 20. I'm not too sure. But if we were to compare the difficulty, the receptivity of the women that I approached, let's say in London, to Barcelona and other countries that I've been to, dude, I honestly found it pretty fucking standard. Yeah. And I know that this is a big sticking point for some guys that live in the UK, as they claim that the UK is so difficult and this and that because the women walk so fast, everybody has somewhere to be. And maybe I was prepared well for this because I lived in San Francisco where we have a similar culture where I've approached downtown plenty and girls are always hustling to work and hustling to, after their lunch break, this and that. But I found it pretty standard. Firstly, I found it much easier than Cyprus and Belgrade. Yeah, Cyprus and Belgrade. Yeah, so we talk about a Mediterranean country in Cyprus and a Baltic, or excuse me, a Balkan country in Serbia. And those two countries, approaching there was, in my opinion, much more difficult. Not the act itself that was difficult, but trying to get them to stop. And I had a lot of girls when I was in those countries just walk straight past and not give me the time of day. Whereas almost every single girl today stopped. There was a couple that walked past me, but pretty much everyone stopped. So, I mean, once again, I'm one guy and this is just one day, but to guys that claim that this is a difficult country or a difficult city to approach in, based on day one's feedback from my approaches, that's absolute horseshit. So, what those guys are really saying is, the guy that says London is so difficult, it's too difficult here. So far, right? I might eat my words tomorrow and the next day, depending on how tomorrow goes. But so far, what I would hear if a guy told me that is, oh, actually, I'm just really, really unequipped, really bad at approach, really don't know what I'm doing, really have a poor technique, and that's probably why the guy's is having difficulty with the skill set in London. I loved it. Today I loved it. I was attracted to so many of the girls, so diverse, right? There were so many different colors, different shapes, yeah, different hair colors, different styles. And so I really love that it was a melting pot of diversity. Felt just like San Francisco, but like way more busy. So that's the other thing I really liked about it is Daniel took me around what he considered to be a fairly quieter um, area as far as not as busy as like the business district. And still, it was like three, four, five times as busy as San Francisco during rush hour. And that was like quote laid back area of this city. So I'm already loving it just because of that. I'm loving it because I'm attracted to the girls out here and just how what a wide variety of women there are out here, which is great. Um, and then yeah, as far as receptivity, once again, I'd say this is so much easier compared to somewhere like Cyprus and Belgrade. Um, yeah, Cyprus, both Cyprus and Belgrade, you really had to make your case for why that girl should stand there and talk to you. And you really had to optimize those first few seconds, whereas you'll see in some of the conversations today, some of the girls didn't stop for like 5, 10 seconds, but I kept kind of backpedaling and flashing my smile, and eventually they stopped, and then it turned into a 5 to 10 minute conversation, right? So, so far, compared to a place like Cyprus and Belgrade, London is way easier in my opinion. Compared to somewhere like LA and San Francisco, London is way better in my opinion because in LA it was terrible. We had to go to Venice Beach every day. It was so hard to find girls that were hot. Potentially this mainly could be that we weren't a part of the inner circles, and so we weren't getting invited to parties and model castings and stuff. Maybe that's the only way that LA is fun and good for approach, but at least the way that I saw LA, it was terrible for approach. Everybody was driving, nobody was on the sidewalks. And then Barcelona, which is another place I've been. I'd say I still prefer Barcelona. Just that, the main reason is I find women that I'm attracted to more often when I'm in Barcelona, at least so far, than I have once I'm in London. And the women that I do find attractive when I was in Barcelona, I find like whoa, like top tier. Versus out here, I'm like, yeah, she's cute, but it's rare that I find a girl. At least so far on day one, right? I don't want to blanket statement, but so far, I've not seen as many girls that I would think, whoa, that girl's like amazing. I have to go talk to her. Whereas day one in Barcelona, it was like everywhere I looked, I could not escape just top tier hot girls. I was like, oh my god, there's one there, and in the distance over there, and across the street. I don't even know which one to go up to, right? So that's like, Barcelona still is my favorite place. But what I can say here though is London is pretty close as far as volume. So like whatever London might lack so far, right? It's just been one day. Whatever it might lack as far as quality, it definitely makes up for in volume because like I guess what I'm saying is this would actually be a really 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 good place to learn the skill set because especially when you're learning, you should not be too worried about approaching the hottest top tier girl ever because it's unlikely you're going to get her anyways when you're first starting out. Yeah, you might surprise yourself, but me, when I was first getting the skill set, um, I wasn't able to go on dates with like absolute. I guess what I'm saying is the quality of girls I'm getting now different than what I was getting when I first was building the skill set, and all of that has to do with self belief, right? Inner self confidence, internal fortitude that I've been developing over these years. But all that to say, I I might I would say it's about on par as far as an immersion location because you're gonna have so many girls to approach. It's like you don't have to go very long in between approaches because the streets are so packed. And we went out after a rain shower to an area that wasn't very busy to begin with, and still was able to get 2 hours worth of footage, which is insane, right? So yeah, that's what I would say about as far as comparisons. So I'll note here, by the way, that after speaking with Daniel and Christian today, I've decided that I'll open up some immersion slots while I'm out here. So I'm going to cap it at 2 spots. To be fair, one of the weekends I already have booked with a previous client. We're going to get some infield footage for him, and you boys know him already, so you'll get to see another chapter of his journey. That's what I like to do with my clients is if the stars align and we're in the same city and he wants extra coaching, then yeah, I like to provide that. So I'm gonna give him some extra days of coaching, and in what's the word? In exchange, he's gonna allow me to post his infields on my channel, which will be very properly filmed infields. And so, but that all that to say, one of the weekends is already booked. So I have 3 more weekends. I want at least one weekend for myself to approach on a Saturday, Sunday, Friday. So that means I'll open up 2 slots for immersions while I'm out here in London. So um, I've seen some of my analytics, so I know I do have a decent presence of UK viewers. Now, part of me wonders if that's just viewers that watch Christian's content that also watch mine. In that case, maybe they'd rather work with Christian, and I totally get that. But if I do have any viewers that are in the UK and that resonate with my content and want to be coached by me specifically and want to get this skill set from me, and and you relate to me more, maybe it's because of maybe we look more similar, right? Maybe we come from more similar backgrounds. Maybe we have more similar styles as far as clothes, as far as speaking, as far as presentation, etc. But all that to say, if you want to apply for coaching with me, then the link is in the description below. You can go ahead and book in You can schedule a free application call, and we'll see if you're a good fit for the program, which essentially would be us going out for 3 days and me installing this playbook into your life, teaching you exactly how I do what I can do. And if you're curious about what I can do, and maybe new guys, especially newer viewers, maybe you haven't seen my older infields, um, if you're kind of wondering if I have any authority around this topic, just wait for this video to drop. I got 30 days of filming out here, so I'm gonna have plenty of proof for you boys. But even just on day one of landing and not having any sleep, you're gonna get to see just how effective I am with the skill set. And I think one thing to note that's very important with this is, you know, some guys just see the skill set as like the ability to get in front of the girl and get results. And so that's why a lot of people that teach this skill set, they tend, firstly, they teach it in a completely different way to me, which is what is the main separator, is I focus on completely different things than the majority of the people that are in this space. But, a lot of those guys tend to piece together their best Mona Lisa conversations and only put that content out. And so they make this skill set seem as though you learn it and then you're never bad at it. You know what I mean? Like, you learn it and then approaches never go badly. You learn it and then girls never walk past you again. You learn it and then you never get rejected again. You learn it and then all of a sudden every single girl wants to go on a date. And that is not the reality at all. And so that's why I love the movement that myself and the other guys that I'm friends with have created, because we give you a very realistic picture of what it actually looks like to go outside and create a better dating reality for yourself. So yeah, what I was getting at there is that I'm not just good at the skill, right? So if I wanted to, I could just be like those guys and only put together my conversations where I actually get dates lined up and get phone numbers, and so I would look like an absolute god to anybody that comes across my infields. But that's not real, right? So that's why I don't do that. And instead, what I do is I piece them together very realistically. Sometimes I just do it uncut. We filmed a few uncuts today, and I plan on releasing them uncut. I got to review the footage and make sure there wasn't too much time in between approaches. But assuming it's not, right, I like to give a very realistic picture of what it looks like so that the viewer can realize that the skill set itself, yeah, a small portion of it is um, learning how to get good reactions when you find girls that reciprocate interest. There you go. But an even bigger part, in my opinion, is the ability to persevere, the ability to get punched in the gut, get right back up, and just keep going in. Yeah, and so you'll see on these infields, there were a few strings of like 4 or 5 blowouts back to back to back where the girl may have stopped very briefly but then kept walking. And you'll notice that after each and every one of those blowouts, I still went in for the subsequent approach with the same amount of enthusiasm. And then doing that enough times got me into a very solid conversation, 10-minute conversation, took her number down, tried to set up a date, right? We're talking about Friday. So it's like, but that only happened, that conversation only came about because I did not lose enthusiasm from the other blowouts, and I just continued to go in. Yeah, and I just I picked myself up off the canvas, off the cement, and I said, yeah, that girl didn't like me, maybe the next one will. And you get to a point where you rep this out so much that you do become somewhat numb to what guys consider rejections. So now it's like the girl is just not interested, and I shrug it off and I go, okay, she's not interested, maybe she is. And so you'll see towards the end of the second infield I recorded today, we had about 10 minutes left of filming, and so I just started firing away. And it was like blow out, blow out, blow out, blow out, blow out, blow out. Then the last conversation of the day was the ballsiest, boldest one that went the best. And she asked for my contact details, right? She suggested that we exchange details, and it's like, that's how this goes, right? You don't get to predict which girls are going to like you, which ones will be in a good mood, which ones will give you a good reaction. All you get to predict is whether or not you're going to go in. And I know myself, I back myself, and I know I'm going to go in, right? So that's what I teach my guys to do. So I take the focus off of results, which is what a lot of guys in this space are trying to push. They go, oh my God, if you come and work with me, I guarantee that you're going to be getting laid every night, every other night by nines and tens and this and that. And they're really misleading guys to think that all they need to do is learn how to walk over to girls and do it a couple of times, and then all of a sudden their dating life changes. That's what attracts the wrong kind of person. That's what attracts the cheap, get rich quick kind of people, right? Is that weak, lying mentality. And so what I do is I try to normalize it and be honest about it. So anyways, Um, yeah, let's just talk a bit about what it was like being professionally filmed. So I was, yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention is Isaac, who I'm going to be doing another top up immersion with at some point in London. He's the client that is allowing me to use his proper footage, and so in return, he's getting some coaching, extra coaching from me. And what's cool is right now I'm creating a nice symbiotic relationship where he's going to get the benefits of being professionally filmed, which I have not gotten until today. It's taken me 2.5 years for the first time I've ever been filmed professionally, and I have this content to look back on now. He's going to get that within what, a month and a half of running an immersion with me, right? So it's like just iterating the skill set, learning how to give it away faster, yeah, learning how to teach it faster, learning how to change lives faster is what we're doing here. And part of that is getting professionally filmed content. So yeah, Isaac gets some pretty solid content that we'll be filming either this weekend or next. And that means that because it's going to be proper audio, proper video, I'm going to be able to give him deeper analysis and deeper breakdowns on the approaches he's doing, and he'll just get more out of the experience, right? And yeah, I should just mention here though that one of the benefits that you get from working with me is you get footage of yourself, but just know that it's not a requirement that you go on my channel, right? That's just that's something I work out behind the scenes with some of my clients that they want extra perks, they want extra access to me, and so in return they give me their footage to use on my channel. But most of my clients, I understand, right, guys sometimes they don't want their face or it's blurred, but they just don't want their voice or anything on the internet with it tied to this space because they're worried that, oh my god, I work a very corporate job, and if they come across the content, this and that. It's funny, fears that I also used to have that I realize now were actually very silly fears, but I get it, right? I was that person just a few months ago. I was worried about my tech sales CEO finding out about my channel, and so I was starting to private a lot of the videos just in case. So I get it. I get the fear. So just know that if you do come to work with me, um, the filming is just for coaching purposes, unless we make a specific agreement behind closed doors that you're going to be on my channel, right? So no worries there. But um, yeah, so the last point that I just want to make, I essentially talked about it towards the beginning of the stream here, but I just want to remind you about how I stacked every excuse possible today. I stacked excuses before going in for my first approach. So most guys, they pick the most minute, convenient excuse to use as to why they cannot get started with the skill set, or when they have the skill set, why they can't continue iterating on the skill set, right? So not to name names or call anybody out specifically, but I've got guys that have learned the skill set that are worried, right? They're using the excuse of like, well, I live in a small town, so I don't want word to get round, or I don't want to approach the same girl. She sees me approach another girl, and it's like, all right, why don't you just go to like the big city that's closest to you? Oh, well, it's an hour train ride away, and this and that. Right? When I hear that, I just hear a guy that's not worried about building the skill. It just sounds like this is like not top of mind, and I get it. If that's the case, then it is what it is. But yeah, realize that you're gonna have to really invest into this area of your life if you want to get really proficient at it. And I know it sometimes can be hard to see the bigger picture, but it's hard for me to even think of a skill set that's more worth getting proficient at than this. And the reason I say that, right, because a lot of guys might hear that and think the wrong thing. They think I mean that it's worth it because you get to fuck a lot of girls. No, that's just the bonus, right? That's just the cherry on top, is that you no longer are sexually frustrated. The reason I say that this skill is, from what I found so far as skills, one of the most worth it skills to build is because by learning how to walk over and present your authentic self to these girls in public in front of everybody when you're scared, you are you are simultaneously learning a whole host of other skills while you're doing that, right? So we can break the skill of cold approach down into so many sub skills, including how to be brave, yeah, how to walk over bravery, how to walk over to your fear while you're scared, how to confront your fear, bravery, right? Social skills, which we can also break down into multiple sub skills, but just the whole concept of how to convey yourself effectively, how to communicate with other people in social settings effectively, how to get your point across, how to get people to respond to you well in social situations, how to get people to not neglect you in social situations, right? How to smile at people, how to look at people in the eyes, like so many sub skills that you're learning where you will find very quickly if any of that is lacking, then when you approach these girls, they're not going to give you good reactions. So you're going to learn very quick what it means to build social skills, right? We like bravery, like I just talked about. You're going to learn very quick if you walk over to these girls in a very meek, supplicating, apologetic kind of a way, and you're not to be fair, you're showing bravery by the fact that you're going over, but you're doing it in a, I guess conviction is a better concept here to use, more applicable. Is if you're not convicted when you walk over, you're going to find out very quickly that they're just going to treat you exactly how you're treating yourself. Yeah, if you're treating yourself as this approach isn't that important, so you're apologizing for walking over, you're saying excuse me very quietly, they're going to treat you accordingly, which means they're going to give you the energy of fuck off, guy. If you're not going to walk over here with a set of balls, and why are you walking over at all, right? So it's like that's what I mean. You're learning that skill. You're learning bravery. You're learning social intelligence and social skills in general, right? You're learning about persistence, how to get the door slammed in your face and keep going. Go knock on the next door, right? How to pick up the phone again after getting hung up on and getting cussed out. Yeah, these are skills that transfer into an amazing sales career. Yeah, very transferable skills, right? Bravery transfers over to being able to face your fear in other contexts. Social what is it called? Improv classes, fighting classes, um, stand-up comedy, right? It's like you build a skill like cold approach. Those things will still be difficult, but they're not going to be as difficult as if you didn't build this skill, right? Not to mention, then you add all these skills together and you talk about income earning potential. And I've not even talked about the best skill that I've gotten out of this yet, right? Because all these skills are great and all these skills help me to get laid and this and that and so great, right? But really the biggest benefit I've gotten from this skill set is learning how to go after what I want unapologetically and and without hesitation. Yeah. What I've truly learned is that what cold approach has really taught me is that I only get one shot at this life. And if I grew up where everybody was telling me that this kind of a lifestyle, this kind of a dating life was impossible, and then I achieved it, and I achieved it by 23 years old, and then I started looking around and people were telling me that, yeah, living an international lifestyle where you're just flying country to country and making money online, that's unrealistic, Ephraim. That's like only the 1% of the 1% get to do that, or this, and oh, it's not realistic. You should just get a safe corporate job, programming job, something predictable, something that we can put you in that box, right? So it's like majority of my life, people told me that this dating life was impossible to achieve, and then I achieved it, and I achieved it relatively early on in life. And then, majority of my life, people were telling me that this lifestyle was impossible to achieve, and I achieved it fairly early on in life. Right, I'm 25 years old now. What I mean by lifestyle is international lifestyle. I travel country to country and meet girls in different countries and meet up with my friends, and we're all over the fucking map, and we go out together. We go travel to different countries. Then I go back home. I meet with my family for a bit. I have fun with my family, with my friends back home, and then I'm back out to a new country. And it's like I'm exploring the world on my terms, and I'm not clocking in and I'm not slaving away at a job, which I was doing just a few months ago. And so this is what I mean. The biggest skill I've gotten from cold approach is the realization that I am allowed to dictate my own life. I'm allowed to create my own reality. And through learning the skill set of daytime cold approach, I've subsequently learned that I can choose how I want to live my life, and I can do it unapologetically, and I can do it with little to no hesitation now. And so um, yeah, just to not harp on that for too long, the point I'm getting at is the smallest benefit that you're getting from this skill set is that you get to get laid now, and you no longer are sexually frustrated, right? For guys that are sexually frustrated right now that might be listening to this stream, they think that's the biggest benefit, and I get it, and I've been there, and I've been you before, so I get it, and I don't shame you for that, and you're gonna have to go through the same cycle where you're gonna finally pick up your nuts and walk over. Hopefully you reach out so I can help you through the process and expedite it and teach it to you in 3 days instead of you trying to use 3 years to figure it out. But then once you actually start walking over, you start building the skill set, then you're going to get to a point where you're actually getting dates, you're going on dates, and then you're going to finally get your happy ending. And I don't know, some of you it'll take a month, some of you it'll take 10 months, some 2 years, depends on where you're at, where you're starting. But you will get those happy endings, right? Something like Isaac's realizing now. And then you're going to Uber the girl home or go drop her off or drop her off at her place and drive back to yours. And you're going to sit in your apartment, right? It's going to be 1, 2 a.m. You're going to be so proud of yourself in the moment. You're like, yeah, I finally did it. Yeah, I broke the dry spell and I did it without a dating app and I did it without a nightclub and this and that. I did it through cold approach. And then you're going to look around and you're going to realize that you've just spent all of this time and effort trying to chase that release that you thought was everything. And then you got the release. And don't get me wrong, the climax was great. The climax is always great. And then you came down. And then you looked around and you realize you still got to get up and go to work tomorrow. And then you realize there are still other areas of your life that you're dissatisfied with. And all that is happening is you begin to prioritize things that are in your life. Yeah, so when a man is sexually frustrated, top of the priority list is getting laid. But then when he can get laid, that is no longer a top priority. And so right now for me, it's like it's closer to bottom priority right now. Yeah, and it's just what a powerful statement. Saying that as the guy who used to go 8 months at a time without getting laid, I can now say on a live stream in London, London in England, that getting laid is one of my bottom priorities right now. Yeah, it's way below changing lives. It's way below making content. It's way below investing into this YouTube channel. It's way below trying to pull guys up here, up the ladder with me and trying to get them to this dating life, right? It's way below going out and seeing my friends. It's way below going and seeing my family and spending time with them. Getting laid to me is now so low on the priority list because it's such a non-problem. And it used to be the biggest problem. And now it's a non-issue, right? And so that's a good angle, is really what you're getting with the skill is the freedom to relinquish yourself of this sexual frustration that is causing you to make bad decisions, causing you to it's essentially clouding your judgment, right? Guys that aren't getting laid make stupid decisions and it's barely even them who's making the decision. It's their animal brain. Yeah, it's their animal brain that's doing it. It's that testosterone that's driving them, and it's unfortunate. And yeah, I don't even know how you got to this point, but all this to say, the biggest benefit that you're getting with this skill set is freedom. Yeah. And so now hopefully you realize why I call myself a freedom architect. I believe it. I believe it. I'm a freedom architect. I teach men how to be free, how to free themselves from sexual frustration, how to free themselves from sexual shame, how to free themselves from the fear of public judgment and public humiliation, how to free themselves from the fear of rejection and the fear of being seen and being heard, and then ultimately how to free themselves from the need to chase sex all the time. Yeah, you learn this skill set, you get your notches in your belt, and then you realize, wait a second, I spent the last half a decade trying to get this big fancy degree and this nice fancy car and this watch and this status built lifestyle that these red pillars are claiming. And then you build a skill set like cold approach and you realize, wait a second, none of this shit matters. I just skip the line because I've built myself into a courageous person because I've maxed out the characteristics that women actually do respond to, rather than trying to max out the amount of money that I'm wearing in jewelry on my body. And then you have your experiences, you look back, you go, that was fun, I'm glad I did it. Yeah, I definitely learned things about my, like, you, I guess another thing to call out is you can't get to this state of mind without first teaching yourself that you can get laid when you want to, right? Because some guys might hear this and go, oh, so he's saying that, like, it's not the end all be all, so I guess I'll just keep jerking off to porn, right? It's like, well, no. The problem there is you don't have power, yeah, because you couldn't get laid if you wanted to, not you, right? But a lot of guys find themselves in this position where they couldn't even get laid if they wanted to. And so when you are building this, when you've built this skill set, you've got your reps under your belt, you've got your experiences under your belt, you have proven to yourself that you can get laid when you want to. Yeah. And once you've proven that to yourself, like as mentioned, it lowers on the priority list. It becomes less and less important in your life. And you get to focus on other things that are important to you. And that's what I mean. I free men from this cloudy sex drive judgment that they're typically living their lives with. And I teach them how to get this part satiated. So now you can focus on the shit that you want to do when you're not horny, right? Now you get to focus on go and visiting your parents and your relatives who are getting older and who won't be here for much longer. And now you get to focus on your career that you're trying to progress in, or getting out of the career because you don't like it and trying to build your business, right? Now you get to focus on your hobbies and what you love doing when you're not so focused on trying to get laid. Now you're free, right? So, anyways, 40-minute stream. Um, I was aiming for a 20-minute stream, and I gave you 20 extra minutes. So there we go. I'm gonna end it there. So yeah, for those of you who want to just skip the line, you want to get direct access to me, you want to be coached by me in person, so that you don't have to just follow along with my content and try to figure it out yourself. My question for you is, what's worth more to you, your time or your money? Yeah, for me, it's my time 100%, which is why every dollar that I get from my immersion clients, I've been investing right back into this business, and I'm getting business coaching from Christian. I'm paid a fuck ton of money to get proper filming, infield footage, so I can get better content, so I can get more guys on board, because for me, my time is worth a lot more than money. Money is replaceable, time is not. I can make 10,000, lose 10,000 and make it again, but I can't get back any days of my life. I'm 25, almost 26 in a few months. Life is starting to speed up, and life never goes backwards. Time never goes backwards. And so why are you wasting your time? Why are you waiting? Yeah. If you resonate with what I'm talking about, if you want me to install my skill set into you so that you can stop guessing and stop trying to follow along and do it all yourself and banging your head against the wall for months and years at a time, if you want to just skip the fucking line, then schedule a free application call with me. All right, link is in the description below. As a reminder, I help specifically guys who consider themselves to be introverted, and they were fed the belief, like I was, that you must be extroverted to live this sort of a dating life, and I'm living, breathing proof that that is not the case. So love you boys as always. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I'm gonna go get some sleep finally. So